5, commentary by Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj. I'll read 5, 6 line, what we read yesterday, and then we will continue. So verse number 4, 5, 6, 7, those verses will give us where we need to work on it. Verse number 4 was saying about association with non-devotees, Gramya Katha. We should not look for the liberation, any Salokya, Samipya, Shasti like this. And also we should not seek residence in Vaikuntha. And verse number 5 is these 6 enemies: lust, anger, greed, madness, illusion, and envy. So this is where we are. And there is a third result that is not mentioned among these 6 sins or 6 vices. If the obstacles are too strong for our anger to remove, then fear comes. Sometimes Krishna speaks about it. He says, Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha. Raga means calm or lust. Bhaya means fear. And Krodha means anger. These are 3 emotions associated with each other. Accordingly, as a result of fear, greed, and anger, we are seized by illusion, moha, identified ourselves with our possessions. So we will continue reading. What is illusion? Moha is when we forget ourselves to such a degree that we are ready to kill someone. Normally, we would never do that. Again, this is a purely psychological reaction. Because anger, fear, or greed inside produces an extremely strong drug that obscures consciousness, and we may act in a way entirely out of character because we forgot who we are. And the best thing to protect us is whenever any thought comes in our mind, just call out on Srimati Radharani and the Divine Couple and Guru and Vaishnavas. Krishna explains that this is how the downfall takes place, where we do something we would not otherwise do. Eventually, at the heart of it all is calm. Because of calm, we degrade more and more. We commit a sin we would never imagine being able to commit. But then everything goes like clockwork. Everything is perfect because moha has covered our intelligence and our consciousness. We do not understand who we are or what we are living for. Haribol. The Vishnu Purana defines illusion, moha. It is said that, quote, this is my father and this is my mother. This is my wife and this is my house, unquote. But this is not your dad and your mom. This is not your wife and this is not your house. And this is not your body. We think that it is all belongs to us. Actually, nothing belongs to us. We expand our I and moha makes us expand our ego overall. We are studying the kinship between Kam, Krodh, Lobha, Moh, Mada and Matsarya. What comes after moha? Mad. Mad means pride and madness. We start to be proud. All this is mine. This is mine and that is mine. I have so many things and they are all mine. So we start to expect that all others should respect and honor us. And because we have become very important, we cannot tolerate even the slightest humiliation. So there is a nice example in Srimad Bhagavatam when Daksha was insulted as a result of disrespecting his son-in-law, Lord Shiva. Daksha was decapitated and his head burned to ashes. He was later restored to life when he was given a goat's head as replacement. In this way, moha is transferred into mother, and as a result of this, the ripe fruit, the most beloved youngest son in this family, is born. And who is this? Matsarya. Matsarya means when we start to envy someone for being better than we are, even in something small. It seems to us that the very fact of their existing is humiliating to us. Our dignity suffers. We feel hurt and we rejoice when another person is suffering. When someone is suffering, we do not show it, of course, but inside we think, Krishna has punished him. Wonderful. So we will stop here from reading and let me. The whole world is like this. We want to see other people suffer. That's our enjoyment in material life. This world is horrible. So now we will read from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. We are on volume number 3, chapter title as Swami Invites Hippies. I'll read one paragraph, what we read yesterday, because our remembrance is so weak. We are not Shrutadhar, so we need to get as much help as we can. As they passed the shuffleboard courts and the old man playing checkers, Prabhupada stopped and turned to the boys. Just see, he said. Old people in this country do not know what to do. So they play like children, wasting their last days. We should be meant for developing Krishna consciousness. Their children are grown and gone away. So this is a natural time for spiritual cultivation. But no, they get some cats or dog, and instead of serving God, they serve opposite dog. It is most unfortunate, but they will not listen. Their way are shut. Therefore, we are speaking to the youth who are searching. Haribol. So Prabhupada says that no use of talking to the old people, because even if you say that please chant, they will say, I can't, I can't, I can't, because throughout their life they have never chanted Hare Krishna. How they can get the interest? I had that, my friend, we were together as a roommate and classmate up to the final years of engineering in Surat. And we stay in touch with each other, but we never meet each other for long. I think 6-7 years ago, when I was visiting Washington, D.C. and Montreal and like that with my sister. So then he lives in Virginia. I visited him, and he was telling me that what you have done is so nice, that throughout your life you have used your energy in Krishna service. And I was keep on telling him that Mukesh is name. Mukesh, why don't you chant Hare Krishna? And you know, he said, it's very difficult because we have not done this practice. And he was saying that this, horrible, because he was living in a small village where there is not that many friend circle or anything. How they can pass the time in retirement? And unfortunately, he was in a coma for almost more than 2 years, that he cannot speak, he cannot recognize anyone in the hospital. And finally, I was keep on calling and never answered. And then through other relatives, I came to know that he left the world. May Krishna help him. When Prabhupada and the boys, this is now new reading, a sloping green lawn just off Kesar Drive, the boys point out that this was the famous Hippie Hill. In the early morning, the gently sloping hill and the big quiet meadow surrounded by eucalyptus and oaks were silent and still. But in a few hours, hundreds of hippies would gather here to lounge on the grass, meet friends, and get high. Prabhupada advised the boys to come here and hold kirtan. So now we are embarking on another chapter, the price affair. Swami's disciples in New York were surprised to find that they could still carry on in his absence. At first, rising early, Haribol, going to the storefront and holding the morning kirtan and class had been difficult. Without Swamiji, everything had seemed empty. But he had taught them what to do, and gradually they realized that they should simply follow what he had shown them, or even imitate as a child imitate his parents. Imitations for the good is good. That's what our Acharya says. And if it worked, at first they had been so shy to speak or lead the kirtan, so they had played tapes of Swamiji kirtan and classes. But when the evening came and guests attended the temple, the devotees felt compelled to give live classes. Rai Ram, Brahmananda, Shatswarup, and Rupanuga took turns giving brief talks and even answering challenging questions from the same Lower East Side audience that Srila Prabhupada had lined him for 6 months. Things were shaky and lacking without him, and yet, in a sense, he was still present. And the devotees find that everything, the chanting, the cooking, taking prasadam, preaching, could still go on. On January 19, just 3 days after his arrival in San Francisco, Prabhupada had returned back to his New York disciple. Someone may have unmuted their phone. Oh, Sital Revati Mataji joined. Okay. They were his spiritual children and were very dear to him. Although far from his homeland India, he hadn't thought first of writing to anyone there. Since he was a sannyasi, he had no interest in writing to any family members or relatives. And as for writing to his godbrothers, There was not much importance in that, since they had repeatedly shown their reluctance to help. But being in a new city among new faces and having met with an initial fanfare of success, Prabhupada had wanted to share the news with those most eager to hear from him. He had also wanted to reassure his disciple, whom, after only a few months of training, he was expecting to conduct Krishna consciousness movement in New York. Prabhupada wrote a letter, "My dear Brahmananda, Hayagriva, Kirtananda, Sarswarup, Gargamuni, Achyutanand, and Jadurani. Please accept my greetings and blessings of Guru Gauranga Giridhari Gandharvika, that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj deities. You have already got the news of our safe arrival and good receptions by the devotees here. Mr. Allen Ginsberg and about 50 or 60 others received us on the airport, and when I arrived in my apartment, there were some press reporters also who took note of my mission." I remember the same scene that when we visited with Tamal Krishna Maharaj in 1998 Fiji, even inside they came to the airport, like next to the check-in thing, and they were chanting so wonderfully, and there were 80, 90 devotees. And each of them bring a garland with them. So once they fill up the neck of Goswami Maharaj, then they garland each and every one of us at the airport. Maybe a couple of garlands, 2 or 3 garlands. We also got it because we were, I think, 15 or 18 devotees were traveling from Dallas and Houston. A very memorable trip. 2-3 papers like the Examiner and Chronicles, etc., have already published the report. One of the reports is sent here with "Please find." I wish that 1,000 copies of this report may be offset printed at once, and 100 copies of the same may be sent here as soon as possible. I understand that you are feeling my absence. Krishna will give you strength. Physical presence is immaterial. Presence of a transcendental sound received from the spiritual master should be the guidance of life. That will make our spiritual life successful. If you feel very strongly about my absence, then you may place my pictures on my sitting place, and this will be source of inspiration for you. I'm very much anxious to hear about the final decisions of the house. I wish to open the house by the 1st of March, 1967. An arrangement may be done dexterously in this connection. I have not as yet received the tapes for the dictaphone, and I have sent you tapes yesterday. Please offer my blessings to Shriman Neil. Shriman Rayaram is cooking well and distributing prasadam to the devotees, numbering sometimes 70. It is very encouraging. I think this center will be a very nice branch without delay. Everything is prospective. Hope you are well and awaiting your early reply. The letter had helped, especially the second paragraph. Brahmanan had posted it in a storefront. Now Swamiji had clearly enunciated that they were still with him, and he was still in New York with them. It was something special, service to the spiritual master in separation. And even the devotees in San Francisco, who were with Swamiji every day, could not yet know its special taste. While the devotees in New York performed their daily duties, they often quoted from the letter and thought about it. Quote, Krishna will give you strength. Physical presence is immaterial. Presence of the transcendental sound received from the spiritual master should be the guidance of life that will make our spiritual life successful. Unquote. Although Prabhupada had written that they could place his photograph on his seat, no one had a photograph. They had to ask the devotee in San Francisco for one. A boy took some poor color snapshot and sent them to New York, and the devotee placed on at Prabhupada's sitting place in his apartment, and it helped. For Prabhupada also, the letter to his disciple in New York marked a milestone. This was the basis on which he hoped to conduct a world movement. He could travel from place to place and yet be simultaneously present in many places by his instructions. Brahmananda, as president of the New York Temple, frequently phoned San Francisco. Quote, the chanting is the focal point, unquote, he told Hayagriva. Quote, we can always sit and chant. We are beginning to understand what Swamiji meant when he said that worship in separation is more realizable, unquote. And Srila Prabhupada wrote to his New York disciple regularly, at least once a week. Brahmananda got most of the business instructions, arranged to purchase a new building in New York, see Mr. Kellman and get copies of the Kirtan record, get a copy of the movie a filmmaker had made of the devotees, investigate the possibility of publishing Bhagavad Gita. Quote, if I am assisted by one expert typewriter, unquote. Prabhupada wrote Brahmananda, quote, we can publish every 3 months a book, and the more we have books, the more we become respectable, unquote. Satsarup got a letter from Prabhupada asking him to type the dictated tapes of the New York book, Teaching of Lord Chaitanya. Although Prabhupada's typist Neil had gone to San Francisco after a day, he had disappeared. Quote, I think you have 5 tapes with you because I got only 3 with me, Prabhupada wrote. Quote, see that the tapes do not miss. Satsarup had written inquiring how he would be able to understand transcendental knowledge. Quote, you are a sincere devotee of the Lord, unquote, Prabhupada replied. Quote, and certainly he will bless you with auspicious advancement in the matter of spiritual understanding, unquote. Rama Rai got a letter encouraging him to continue publishing the magazine. Back to Godhead will always remain the backbone of the society. Your ambition should always be how to improve the quality, Haribol, unquote. Achyutanand, one of the youngest devotee, only 18 years old, was now working alone in the kitchen. In a letter, Srila Prabhupada wrote to 5 devotees, signing his name 5 times. He told Achyutanand, quote, Since Kirtananda is absent, certainly you are feeling some strain. But the more you show Krishna, the more you become stronger. I hope you are being properly assisted by your other god brothers. Unquote. Prabhupada advised Garga Muni, also 18 years old, to cooperate with his older god brothers. Asking whether Garga Muni had gone to see his mother, Prabhupada said he hoped she was all right. Since Garga Muni was the temple treasurer, Srila Prabhupada advised him, quote, checks should be drawn with full deliberation, unquote. Prabhupada wrote Jadurani, quote, I always remember you as the nicest girl because you are so devotedly engaged in the service of Krishna, unquote. She had informed him that she had been cheated by a boyfriend. And Srila Prabhupada replied, quote, better you accept Krishna as your husband, and he will never be unfaithful. Devote yourself therefore 24 hours in the service of Krishna and see how you feel happy in all respects, unquote. Rupanuga had written Prabhupada that the temperature in the New York has dropped below zero and there had been a 2-day blizzard. Srila Prabhupada wrote as follows in response to his. Certainly this situation would have been a little troublesome for me because I am an old man. I think Krishna wanted to protect me by shifting me here at San Francisco. Here the climate is certainly like India and I am feeling comfortable, but uncomfortable also because at New York I felt at home. On account of so many beloved students like you, as you are feeling my absence, so I am feeling for you. But we are all happy on account of Krishna consciousness, either here or there. May Krishna join us always in his transcendental service. The neophyte disciples in New York felt assurance from their spiritual master words and by their own experience. Service in separation was a transcendental fact. They were improving in chanting on their beats, and the New York Center was going on. Quote, so long our kirtan is all right, Prabhupada wrote. There is no difficulty at all. But there was one difficulty, attempts to purchase a new building, which has gone on smoothly while Prabhupada had been present, had become a great problem as soon as he left. Shortly after Srila Prabhupada's departure for San Francisco, Brahmananda had given Mr. Price $1,000 and Mr. Price had promised to help the devotees get their building. When Prabhupada heard this, he became perturbed. In the opinion of the devotees and the trustee here, 1,000 has been risked without any understanding. I know that you are doing your best, but still there has been an error of judgment. I'm not at all displeased with you, but they say that Mr. Price will never be able to secure financial help from any other source. He is simply taking time under different pretexts, changing constantly. Therefore, you should not pay even if farthing more than what you have paid. If he wants any more money, you should flatly refuse. Wonderful direct instruction. Srila Prabhupada remembered Mr. Price and their first meeting, at which the blonde-haired, elegantly dressed businessman, his face tanned even in winter, had addressed him as Your Excellency. That address alone had made Prabhupada distrust him. There was a Bengali saying, too much devotion denotes a thief. Prabhupada knew that businessmen were prone to cheat and that an American businessman would be particularly difficult to deal with. Prabhupada's American disciples were innocent children in worldly affairs. He was ready to instruct them step by step, but now, without consulting him, they had become involved in an unbusiness-like transactions, risking $1,000 of the society's money without any written agreement. Srila Prabhupada had visited the building on Stuyvesant Street and he wanted it. It was a historical, well-kept, aristocratic building suitable for his New York headquarters. It was worth the 100,000 price if they could afford it. But it was difficult for Prabhupada to know from San Francisco what was going on between Brahmananda and the businessman. And the difficulty increased as later sent phone calls from Brahmananda introduced other person involved. Aside from Mr. Price, there was Mr. Tyler, the owner, and Mr. Tyler's lawyer, who seemed independent of Mr. Tyler. And finally, there was ISKCON's lawyer, who also had a mind of his own. Very well. Although Srila Prabhupada disciples usually surrendered to his directions, they seemed bent on listening to the businessman's promises, even though their spiritual master has cautioned them not to. Prabhupada became disturbed. His preaching in San Francisco was being threatened by fears that the businessman would cheat his society of what he had begun in New York. With no responsible advisors to turn to, Srila Prabhupada sometimes discussed the problem with Mukunda and other devotees in his room. They all agreed that the transaction seems highly irregular. Brahmananda was probably being led on by false promises. Brahmananda, however, saw Mr. Price as a rare person, a successful man who wanted to help the devotees. Although no other respectable businessman had ever shown interest, Mr. Price listened and sympathized. And he would greet the devotee with Hare Krishna. Brahmanand was well aware of the humble economic and social positions of the devotees. They were almost all ex-hippies, and they were poor. But here was Mr. Price, a wealthy man with diamond cuff links, who was always glad to see him, shake his hand, pat his back, and speak appreciatively of the religion of India and the moral behavior of the small band of devotees. So I think it's 6:54. We should be punctual. We should stop here. And before the devotees leaves, let's offer our humble obeisances at the desk of their feet. Vanchakalpatarubhasya kripa sindhu bhaivacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Always remain blissful by remembering Krishna. Whenever the thought come in our mind, something that not related to our bhakti, just pray to Srimati Radharani, utter Radhe Radhe or Jai Shri Radhe Krishna. They will protect and divert the mind onto the spiritual topics. That's the only way we can save from us from the trouble. So I'm so happy that everyone is joining early in the morning. We were lucky today that His Holiness Hanuman Prasad Swami Maharaj joined for an hour and a half, almost from 2 o'clock to 3:33, giving his kind association. I was asking Maharaj to chant, but somehow or other Maharaj just let me chant. Maharaj opened his video, so we were able to take the darshan for a short time and hope that Maharaj will be kind enough to join whenever it's possible. So if